Morning. My name is Tim St. Louis, and I'm the director at Rock Lake Christian Assembly, and I'm going to be speaking during your Sunday school hour today. And so before we get started, let's just go ahead and pray, and then we'll share an update about the camp. Father God, we're so thankful for the opportunity to serve you. We're so thankful to be partners in the kingdom work that you've called us to. God, we're thankful that we can share about what God's doing, what you're doing through the camp ministry at Rock Lake, through the lives of students and adults. God, thank you for the way that you continue to use this ministry to mold and shape the lives of future kingdom workers. God, may we continue to be faithful in our pursuit of your mission and your calling for us. May we continue to keep Plainfield updated as to the work that's happening there as they faithfully partner with us in that endeavor. It's in your holy and blessed name we pray these things. Amen. So this is a camp update, and I will talk for the hour. I'm sure you don't just want to hear me prattle for an hour. So if you have questions, please just pipe up, and I'd be glad to address your questions, because for you, I'm sure that will be more interesting than me just rattling off information about the camp just mindlessly over the next hour. God has really done some great things at the ministry over the last several years. Our numbers, when we got there about 10 years ago, the camp was really struggling. We were struggling financially. We were struggling to have... I'm sorry. We're struggling to, with our attendance at our summer programs. We were running around 300 students at our summer programs, and then as we got going and have built some things over the last couple of years, we've seen a significant rise in our student numbers. This last year, our attendance was 632 students. So God has really grown our numbers. And while people may say, like, hey, things are kind of crazy in this world, students aren't really interested in faith the same way as they were, that's not what we see at camp. We see a large number of students who come from our churches. About 45% of our students each summer come from our churches. We get about 40% of our students from other churches. We get 15% of our students from word of mouth. They've heard about us, they've been invited by a friend, they just show up. They have no church affiliation. They're not developed in their faith in any way. And so, as much as we are a discipleship ministry, right, we want to help educate students, help them grow in their faith wherever they're at. We are also significantly an evangelistic ministry. This last year, that means we had almost 100 students who had no faith background. And so we're excited for the opportunity that we have to proclaim the gospel, right, and evangelize to students who've not heard of who Jesus is or what he's done in their lives. But we're also excited for the opportunity that we have to help your students grow in faith and understanding of the gospel, that for them to take whatever the next step is in their faith journey. You know, for some of them, that is simply understanding more who Jesus is so that they can make the decision to surrender their lives, right, in baptism. For some people, that's just learning what it is to be obedient, right? Because discipleship, Matthew 28, 19, and 20 tells us that we're to go and baptize, right? But it doesn't just say go and baptize and end. It says that we're to teach obedience, right? So that we have a firm understanding of God's commands. So there's more to it. We want to make sure that our students understand Scripture. They understand what God's commanded, that they're living in obedience. And they can't do that without understanding the commands. But that is it's like the rest of your life, right? Is that learning, that understanding, that trying to find that place of obedience, and letting that take hold. And so that's what we're helping a lot of our students to find. You know, that looks like learning to love others. That looks like learning to serve others. That looks like pursuing ministry for some kids. It looks like discipleship. It looks like going for some kids into the mission field. Each year we partner with a mission organization to come in and work with our students and help to educate them on what it is to go, right? Because we're to go locally, we're to go nationally, we're to go internationally is kind of what Scripture lays out for us. And so we bring in a variety of different missions that kind of demonstrate that. The last couple years we've had Enoch Billa with Renewed Hope India. He was with us a couple years ago. We had Hope 2 Liberia this last year. We had this year, or our mission for this year is going to be His House, right? Campus ministries that a lot of our churches are partnered here with in Michigan. And so we want students to get the idea that going may look different, and God's called us to different things, to utilize our gifts to go. So with Renewed Hope, that's a widow and orphan's home, right? So someone is using their gifts to love widows, to love orphans. With Hope to Liberia, you know, that's someone utilizing their gifts. They saw a need. You know, there's a lack of clean water in Liberia, and really around the world, and Hope 2 has stepped in to kind of fill that need, to supply clean water systems, and the gospel, right, to people in a lot of areas. Liberia, in particular, is the one that they're focused on right now. They've just kind of entered into another country in Uganda that they're setting up a Hope Center and developing a lot of relationship there and ministry. But we want people to see that whatever your giftedness is, you use that to go and serve in the way that God has commissioned you. And so for me, that's serving at the camp. That's loving kids and helping them to grow in their faith. But for all of us, that looks different. For you, going may be going to your employer, maybe working with the people or the clients that you deal with on a daily basis and helping them to understand God's love in the way that you engage with them, in the way that you interact with them. And so we want to help students to understand that going looks different for all of us. And so when we partner with our summer missions, that is what our emphasis is. And this year our mission is His House. And so we're going to have His House representatives at each of our camps this summer to talk about the ministry, to talk about what going looks like for them on college campuses around the state of Michigan. Discipleship is the entire focus. It's of our summer programs. It is our mission statement to go and make disciples. That's what our mission statement is. It can't be any more clear. It's basically Matthew 28, 19, and 20 written out, that this is your mission. We're to provide facilities that are away from the distractions of this world that allow us to go, baptize, make disciples, teaching them to obey everything that God's commanded us. Right? That's basically our mission statement in a nutshell. And so we want to continue to do that, and as we build out our summer programs, that's been our emphasis for a lot of years. Over the last couple years, we've transitioned to a summer camp season and an off season, right? That's what our history has been. We've had a summer camp season, so we work really, really hard for 3 months, and then we have 9 months of vacation, right? I mean, this is the perfect job. No, I'm kidding. It's not really what it is. But we've transitioned from this mindset that we're on for 3 months and off for 9 months to we have retreats that we're running throughout the 9 months, and we're very active. A couple years ago, we transitioned Amy Dobbins, who was our office manager. We transitioned her to a program manager where she was focused specifically on developing retreat programs for adults and students in our off season. She did that for a year, and through that process, she finished her master's and pursued an opportunity as a hospital chaplain. And so we were able to bring in a good friend of mine, Blake Harrison. Blake and his wife, Heather, have served faithfully at the South Lansing Church for the last 10 years. Blake has served as a part of their worship team, and Heather has served in their children's ministries. They have not been full-time ministers. They've been working on those teams at the church, and so they've also had other jobs. Blake worked at Menards, which made us kindred spirits because that's where I spent about 15 years of my life, was working for Menards, and so we've talked a lot. We've had a chance to interact a lot throughout the last 10 years as he's worked with Menards and tried to find a balance between working there and engaging in ministry at the church that he's been called to. And so as we talked over this last year, he felt like this was a good fit for him. So we brought Blake Harrison on to serve as our program manager. And so his goal has been developing retreats and trying to bring in more events for us over the course of the next year. We're going to continue to see more and more. We have a worship leader retreat that's coming up April 23rd through the 25th. I'm sorry, before that, we even have this coming weekend. We have a ladies' retreat that'll be coming up on campus. If you're interested in that, we have a worship leader retreat that comes up a couple weeks from there. We have a ministerial retreat that's May 19th through the 21st. We have a family camp meeting. If you're familiar with family camp meetings, that's just like a old-timey revival, right? We bring in a bunch of people to preach. Bruce is going to be there for one of the messages, right? To preach at our family camp meeting. But we have people preaching in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, and we have worship with each of those messages. And so it's just consistently you're getting hit with the gospel message over and over and over again for 3 days, and it's just really a really encouraging time of fellowship and learning. But that is coming up May 29th through the 31st. September and October, November, these are all months that are packed with retreats and events that we'd love for you to be a part of. If you're interested in learning more information about what we offer, we'd love to talk to you about that. We have our adult retreat is coming up in September. We have an astronomy retreat, craft retreat if you like quilting or scrapbooking. We have one of those too for you. All our programs come with a spiritual component, right? We want to see, even if you're there to quilt, we want to see you grow in your faith as well, right? And so we want to provide opportunity for worship, opportunity for learning at those as well. And so we hope that you'll come and talk to us about some of those things that we're offering to help bring about discipleship in your lives as well. In our summer camp programming, we offer graded programming that reaches kindergarten students all the way to 12th grade students. Okay, and so this summer we have about 17 camps that will stretch over about 11 weeks. And all of those are geared to helping students grow in faith. Our younger camps, we have a K-1 and a 2nd through 4th grade camp that are for kids to come with a parent or a grandparent. So if it's their first time coming to camp, we want them to recognize that camp is a safe place for them, and they can do that by coming with a parent or a grandparent, staying at camp and experiencing that safety, right, of you being there with them. And so those have gone really well for us. They've really cut down significantly our homesickness as students matriculate into our older camps. So that's been really helpful for us over the last couple years. We offer all kinds of sessions. So if your student, just wants to do some things with young women, we offer that. If your student wants to do things with just guys, and they love to fish or hunt or things like that, we offer those sessions. If they like to go out on the river and really be in the wilderness and really stink it up for a week, if that's your kid's not interested in showering, we've got a trip for that. we have that. It's the no shower trip. Go on the kayak trip for a week. Backpacking, we offer backpacking trips. We have one that goes to Pictured Rocks in the Upper Peninsula. We have one that goes out to the Rocky Mountains out in Colorado. And so all these camps that we're trying to put together, they're to try and reach different students, right, who might be interested in a different experience, right? We know some of our kids, they can come and they can be around 60 or 70 kids in our main sessions, and they love that. They live it up. They love to be in the middle of a large group. We offer wilderness camps that are very small, that are 10 to 15 students. And we have students they just love that because they can't handle the larger groups, or they love the wilderness experience. They like to cook food over the campfire. They like to fish. They like to play in the water a lot, and those camps offer a lot of that. We have our activities camps we added this last year. Our activities camps, we offer a variety of them. This year we have running for kids who think that that's fun. We offer that. That's going to be a small one. I don't see that really taking off, but no, I'm kidding. This last year we had about 6 students who participated in that, and they had a great time getting out, running. They did some weightlifting, some strength training. They talked about how to manage their health, for running or during running season, so that they can be as effective during running season as they can be. And we had a basketball camp, soccer camp. We've got our Pathfinder camp that is for kids who maybe a traditional camp is not their thing. They like to do more gaming things. Well, this is a gaming thing for them. That they can play games during a period of the day, and then they get out and they still engage in worship and fellowship and group activities with all the rest of those other activities camps that are there on campus with us for that session. And so great opportunity for them to be engaged with the whole group, but also be able to break away and do something that they enjoy that's up their alley. So lots of different opportunities for kids of all ages to engage and participate in something for them. Around campus, we always have facility needs, right? It's like you guys. You've got a large property, a building that you need to maintain on a regular basis. We have about 50 acres up in Vesterberg that we need to maintain. We had some winter storms, and we get winter storms every year. They don't affect us, right? I don't know what was different about the winter storms this year that really seemed to be destructive, but it felt like God was there, just like tipping trees with his finger. We've had about 250 trees come down in our woods this winter, which is crazy because we really only had 2 storms. I mean, we haven't had any snow to speak of, really. And so it's resulted, Luke, our facilities manager, has put a lot of work into cleaning that up. We generally have really well manicured trails for kids to hike and explore around campus and out back there. But they can't do that if we've got trees that are hung up, that are falling down, that have fallen across the trail. I mean, some of that's fun, but when the pile's like 8 foot high, you know, it's fun to jump over a tree or walk under a tree, but when the pile is just overwhelming, kids can't navigate that. And we want to keep things safe for all our students. So we've worked really hard to try and clean that up, but there's still more to do. We posted some videos on our social media to kind of show the extent of the damage that's still out there. Luke's pulled about 200 trees out of the woods already, and there's still more work to be done. Things that need cut up, things that need hauled out, lumber that needs stacked. If you feel like this is your calling in life, to be a lumberjack, come see me. I have a job for you. Certainly a service project. May 4th is our work day, and so we really want to encourage our supporting churches to come out and partner with us on that day. We have about 25 projects that we'll have going that day, and we'll have volunteers plugged into different projects, whether that's staining benches or building picnic tables and building benches. We do a lot of our landscaping, cleaning up our gardens around campus. We work in the dining hall to clean up and make sure that that's ready to go. Power washing buildings, all kinds of things that take place that weekend. If you want to come out and partner with us, that'd be a great opportunity for that. Another one of our big facilities projects that's in process right now, we've got materials delivering for it, is we have a wall that sits behind several of our cottages. If you've been on campus in the last 50, 60, 70 years, you might know what Hotel is. Right? Hotel is one of our buildings that's been used for a lot of years. For many years, it was the favorite of our women. You know, they would stay in it as campers, and then more recently, our faculty stay in that building. Behind that building, we had part of our retaining wall fall over, and that happened about 4 years ago. That we had a significant part of that wall fall over. In 2020, COVID was taking over the world. We had water levels in Michigan that were particularly high. Do you remember that? I mean, maybe you don't remember that, but like it was a big thing that Lake Michigan had risen so much, and you know, the end of times was coming because we were all going to fall into the river. I don't know, under the lakes. No, water levels were really high. Water came up all the way under our retaining wall, caused that ground to get really soft. We had a large part of our retaining wall that fell over. But if you know, like Rock Lake construction, we've been in existence since 1919, okay? Which is an awesome thing, right? It's an awesome thing because, you know, we've been around since 1919. But some of the things, I'm pretty sure, haven't been updated since 1919. And that retaining wall is definitely one of them. That retaining wall is built with silo stays. So imagine like blocks, concrete blocks about 2 foot long and about 12 inches wide. They're about 3 inches high, and they just stacked them as high as they could, and that was what they built their retaining wall with. Now, we would say that's crazy. Like, that's crazy. They didn't have anything to tie the wall back, nothing like that. They just stacked these blocks up. And so that came down, surprise, after 100 years. But we've been working to shore that up and to raise funds, really, to raise funds to replace that wall. We priced it out, and our initial quote called for about $97,000, in repairs to that wall, because it's not just behind a hotel, it's behind Bell Cottage, and down at all the way down to the waterfront. If you're familiar with a point, we used to get pictures taken down at the point at the waterfront for a lot of years. And we had these railroad ties that we used, again, for a lot of years. And that's what, was terraced the hill there. And that's all washed away, that's eroded. And so that all supports a road. There's a road up there. And all that has been eroding for several years. And so now down at the bottom of this hill, we've got this giant mound of what was once at the top of the hill. And so we're in the process of repairing all that. The most recent quote we got, we've been praying for several years, but God stepped in and provided us with a quote that was $57,000. Significantly less than our initial quote. And surprisingly, the exact amount of money that we'd raised and had set aside in a fund, we didn't tell the contractor that. This was just the quote that he came back with, and this was the money that we had been given towards this project. And so, we love how God works to provide, but we're able to get this project started. We'll see that completed this spring. The whole area will be done with like these giant Lego-style blocks that are 2 foot by 2 foot by 4 foot. And so they'll stack up that wall and terrace it all nice so that it can be used and it'll be functional again for programming. And that road will be well supported for generations to come. And we shouldn't have this problem in the future. So we're excited about that. But those are some of the facilities projects that we have going on. I'm going to transition. We are a volunteer-led ministry. What does that mean? Because I'm not a volunteer. What does that mean? I have about 5 people who are on staff with us all the time. Okay? Now, we plan and run a lot of retreats ourselves. Okay? But summer camp programming is more than we can functionally do ourselves. And so we bring in We bring in volunteers from our supporting churches. We have about 200 volunteers who come on campus with us and work directly with students to help them grow in faith, to help them grow in understanding. But more than that, that's just the 200 who work directly with students, to dean our camps, to serve as faculty, to serve as worship leader, to serve as speaker, teacher, small group leader, to be the recreation person who just makes kids run in circles for hours. Those are all volunteer roles that we need our churches to supply for us. But more than that, we have landscaping needs. We have kitchen needs that are a daily thing for us. And so we are constantly looking for help in those areas. If you want to come and just weed whack, if that's your thing, we can arrange that. If you want to work in the kitchen, my wife Pam is here, and she can share some of her needs in the kitchen. We have churches that come on board with us all throughout the summer. They'll pick up a day and come in and work a day in the kitchen with a couple volunteers so that they can help be a blessing, providing great food for our student body and for our volunteers. But volunteers are such a huge part of our ministry. I can't emphasize, if there's one outside threat to camp ministry, it is volunteers. It is that like, as our numbers grow, like, there's a cap. We can only grow so far because we have to have the volunteers to sustain that growth, right? And the state says we can have one adult to every 10 kids. And so, like, we could do some things differently. I try very hard to maintain a 1-to-4 ratio because I know what my own house is like. And Pam and I, we had 3 kids, and so that's a 2-to-3 ratio, 1-to-1.5 ratio. And I got to tell you, the kids are running all over sometimes, and seems like they're out of control. And that's a 1-to-1.5 ratio, and the state says we can do 1-to-10. Tell me what's going to happen with 1-to-10. I mean, the campers rule, right? So we don't want to operate with that kind of ratio. That's not a ratio that discipleship can happen in. That's just survival happening, right? At 1-to-10, you're just trying to make it through the day. So that's not where we exist. We want to exist in a 1-to-4 ratio. We work very hard to maintain that. Josh Antonopulos deans one of our sessions. He deans our young men's camp, and so we work with Josh all the time. You know, hey, this is where you're at. You're at 50 kids. You're at 60 kids. You're at 70 kids. Josh is like, man, I need more volunteers. You got to help me come up with more volunteers. So, I mean, if you're looking, if fishing is your game, Josh needs some guys to fish with him at his week at camp. And so it's a big part of our ministry. It's a big part of what we do, and we're always, always, always looking for volunteers. And you may say, Tim, I'm not equipped with the skills to work with students all day on a regular basis. And I got to tell you, I'm not equipped to do that either, right? God has equipped me with what I need. God has given me the skills to do this on a daily basis all summer for 11 weeks with these kids. On my own, I can't. And I have to say that, too, I think there's an expectation that we need to know so much or be so spiritually mature to work with these students. And yes, there is a level of spiritual maturity that exists. But you know what? God can use you to minister to these students. Because students connect with different types of people at all of our camps. We have some kids who they gravitate to the college kids, who have lots of energy, who will run them around. We have lots of kids who they gravitate to the mother figure or the father figure. We have lots of kids who gravitate to a grandparent, right? Who's that age range, who's willing to sit and just talk with them. They don't want to be up running around. That's not what they're interested in. They're not really big on the really active games, and they just want to sit and talk with somebody. You know, maybe you could do that. Maybe that's the role that you could fill for them. Maybe you could be the parental figure who's just able to be there to talk, to encourage them. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. This is not you. This is me. This is me. I'll do better for worship, I promise. I promise. All right. But I just want to tell you, there's lots of opportunities to come, to serve, to be a blessing to kids. There's lots of opportunities. And when we operate within a 1-to-4 ratio, there's opportunity for you to be on, and then there's opportunities for you to be off, where you can go check out, you can take a nap, you can rest, you can revive yourself, you can get re-energized to jump back in later in the day and continue that ministry. But when we're stretched thin, we can't do that. It puts everybody on all the time. It makes serving more difficult for us as a team. And so we don't want to do that. We want everybody to be able to work within the role that they're called to for that week. We want you to be able to serve to the level of your energy and the level of your calling. This last year we had 14 PCC students involved in our programming, and that was incredible to see 14 students engaged with us. We'd love to see that continue to grow. Plainfield offers a 50% scholarship to students, if you didn't know that. They're incredibly generous in providing scholarships so that students can come to camp. And so if you have a student who's affiliated with the church here, Plainfield is very generous in providing financial assistance for that. We try and keep our camp prices very low. Our cost for a full week session, for most of our full week sessions, runs right around $300. And if you know the camp industry, that is insane. Okay? Most camps, if you look up other camps in the state of Michigan that are non-Christian camps, you will commonly find between $700 and $1,000 for a week of camp. And inflation has pushed that up to $1,500 and $1,800 for 1 week of camp. We try and stay very cost effective for students, very cost effective. And part of that is we are volunteer led. We don't have to pay a full staff like all these other camps do, okay? So that's one reason that we're able to stay so inexpensive. But the other reasons that we're able to keep our costs so low is because you underwrite our ministry. Your church helps to finance the ministry year-round. And it is an incredible blessing that we have 35, 36 supporting churches that help to support our ministry so that we can keep our camp costs low so that all students are able to participate in camp programming regardless of what their financial situation is. We also offer a scholarship program ourselves. And so Memorial Weekend is our big scholarship fundraiser. But we really try and offer scholarships because we do have a lot of unchurched students. We do have a lot of churches that send students, but they don't offer any financial assistance. And so we try and provide financial assistance for them as well if they need it. And so Memorial Weekend is the weekend that we really try and bring in funds for that program. This last year, we offered 208 scholarships to students that averaged $177 a scholarship, $36,800 in scholarships to students to help them attend camp. We're working with a variety of students, a variety of situations, and I'll just tell you a couple. We have one young lady who attended camp this last year, and the church reached out to us. They said, this is a unique situation. She's homeless, her family's homeless. We'd like to see her come to as many camps as she can this summer, just because it puts her in a safe place. It makes sure she's getting food on a regular basis. She's around people that love her on a daily basis. And her family right now is living in a tent in Lansing, right? Like that's just their situation. And so we work with this church. The church said we're able to pay for, we'll cover 2 or 3 sessions if you can cover 2 or 3 sessions. And we had this young lady out for about 6 sessions with us this last year. Through that time, we got to know her really well. And it was probably her 4th session that she was at that she came up to me and said, I think I want to be baptized. And so we talked to her about it. We talked to her about what does it mean? And she's got a firm grasp. She's grown up in the church, and so she really has a firm grasp of what that looks like. But we're able to be a blessing to her, be a blessing to her family, be a blessing to her faith development. And so we were able to do that with her, baptize her, and see her make that commitment to Christ. As her season wrapped up, she had a couple more weeks with us. As her season wrapped up, her last camp, I had a chance to talk to her and just love her and tell her how much we were going to miss her and look forward to seeing her next year or at some of our retreats. And she gave me the biggest hug and said, this is my best summer ever. Okay? Now, I get it. like she was able to be at 6 camps. That's pretty incredible, right? Like that's a great summer by all means. But that meant like 5 weeks, she's literally living in a tent on the side of the road in Lansing. And I would hope that I have the same perspective, right? That God has blessed me with his opportunity to be at camps, that I've grown so much in my faith, that I've made so many great friends, that I would have that same perspective. But I know myself. I have the tendency to see the worst, sometimes. And I know that knowing that what I was going home to, knowing that that was my experience all those other weeks, that may not be what I would choose to say, because that wasn't her experience a year ago. She wasn't homeless a year ago. So just really encouraging. We have other students, right, who we have a chance to minister to all the time. We have kids who've grown up at camp. I have a student who was at camp this last year, and he's been a regular. His parents are volunteers with us. They work diligently with us every year, and this kid has been to camp every year, but he's got some behavioral issues. He's adopted and has struggled to maybe adapt to some of the trauma that he's encountered in life, and so there's some behavioral issues that come along with having the student with us, and sometimes those behavioral issues, they prevent him from making strong friendships at camp. And so each year we see this student, try and be an encouragement to him. I try and spend a lot of time with him just because, he just needs some attention. He needs some attention, he needs some love while he's at camp. And so we spend a lot of time together. Well, during worship, this student he gravitates to the back of the room. He's a back row sitter. As soon as singing starts, this student wants to lay down, totally check out. And I think one of the things that we offer is we offer an experience that is fun, right? We offer an experience that is engaging with students beyond the worship time, right? It just allows them to be active, to be around other people. And that's what was really intriguing to this student. That's why he was coming back every year, is because of all the other things that were happening. But he really didn't have eyes to see, he didn't have ears to hear what was going on during that worship time. And so these are times that I slide into the back row and sit next to him. I put my arm around him, I get him to sit up, and we talk and just try and be an encouragement to him. Help him to focus a little bit during these times. But he really struggles to stay connected during these worship and teaching times. And so it was last year that, I say 23, it was 22 that he was there. And throughout the week, like some kids kind of saw past some of the behavioral things that he was struggling with and really built some relationships with him, some solid relationships with him. And it was just really encouraging to see him engage with some other students and really grow in that way. Well, in 23, when he arrived on campus, as soon as he got out of his vehicle, all these other kids were there. They'd been waiting for him to show up, and they're yelling his name, and they ran over to him, and they're huddled around him and gave him a hug, and the smile, his face just lit up. Okay, and so I see him, I get a chance to talk to him for a minute, but as he's getting registered and checked in, and he's just so excited about the week. And what I saw different about this student was that he's engaged for the first time, right? He wasn't laying in the back row, he's sitting up front with his friends. And it was Tuesday that I walked into the tabernacle for worship, and I just expected, I'd find him in the same place. And so I kind of walked up to the back row, and he wasn't there, and I looked around, and he's right up in the front row. And it's not just that he's in the front row. He's standing up, worshiping with his friends. He has his arms around his friends, and they're singing together. And this is the first time I've ever seen this student engage in worship. It was very emotional to me. I don't like to take pictures of worship, because I think that's a sacred moment. But I felt like I needed to. I needed to capture the moment for myself, because in my mind I'm thinking, this is exactly why I do this, right? Because we need to help students connect so that when they do have eyes to see, ears to hear, right, they're there. We're there for them. And so this student, he engaged throughout the week. He's dialed into worship. He came to me on Thursday. He said, I think I want to be baptized. And we had a great conversation about it, just an incredible conversation. Oftentimes I think he's laying down in the back row, but he's capturing what's being said, obviously, because he has much firmer grasp than I think even my kids do about it. But, I'm like, hey, man, I talked to your parents. They're out of town. They're not going to be able to, they wouldn't be able to be here for it. I know they'd really like to be here for it. So would you mind holding off? And for a lot of students, this is where they're going to say, I guess, yes, but then they don't follow through, right? In this situation, this student's like, yeah, I think they should be there for it. And so we put it off. It was a couple weeks later, during one of our special needs camps, they gave me a call. He's like, hey, I'm here on campus. I'm ready to do this. So I ran up to the waterfront, and right as I got up to the waterfront, a van pulled up, and all these kids started pouring out of it from these other churches that had come to celebrate with the student as he surrendered his life to the Lord. But just an incredible opportunity to be able to see life change happen, and to be there for it when students are ready to really hear and embrace. And so I just want you to know that the support you give is making a difference. This last year, we were able to see 22 students baptized on campus, but really so many more baptized back at their own churches, with their own congregations. And we're just so thankful for that. We'd love to talk to you more about camp ministry, about the opportunities that we have to partner with you. Come see us at the table, and I'll be glad to talk to you more about that. As we close today, I'm just going to pray and wrap up, and then I'll turn it over to Bruce if he's got anything to add. God, thank you so much for the ways that you have provided for our ministry, for the ways that you provided for this church. God, I pray that the discipleship that happens at both Plainfield and Rock Lake furthers your kingdom right here in mid-Michigan, that it would go to future generations, that it would stretch your kingdom and continue to grow your kingdom right here in this community, that it would help to establish firm believers, future elders, business leaders, ministers who will carry your kingdom forward. God, we're thankful for the partnership that you have established here between our ministries. And we pray that you just carry it forward. It's in your name we pray these things. Amen.
I saw Satan fall like lightning. I saw darkness run for cover.